Hello, my name is Meridith Sherman, and I am here today to help you out in the store as you're grocery shopping. We're just going to look at one of the food groups today. There are 5 food groups on the My Plate, and we have fruits, vegetables, protein, dairy, and grains. We're going to look at the grains today, okay? And grains are those things like bread and crackers and cereal and wraps and bagels and muffins, okay? So we're just gonna look at 2 things today, breads and cereals. And think about when you're in the bread aisle, either virtual or in the store, in the cereal aisle, there are so many options. So I'm here today to help you figure out which ones are best for your body and which choices can you make that will make your body feel the best. So we're going to start out with learning about what whole grain is. Have you heard about whole grain? This is a model of whole grain anatomy. As you can see, there's 3 parts to the grain. There's bran, endosperm, and germ. So I made a model for us to look at explaining a little more closely what a whole grain is. And then what makes a whole grain a refined grain. I have a wheat plant here. This is the outside of the wheat plant, the bran, okay? It has a lot of fiber. Then we're gonna look inside our wheat plant. We have this big fluffy part called the endosperm. That has a lot of natural sugars and carbohydrates and energy. But then we have this little guy called the germ, the little seed. That contains lots of nutrients and minerals. So when you're talking about what's in your food, do you want all 3 of those things or just one? Right, you want all 3. That means whole wheat. Now, if it doesn't say whole wheat, it could be a refined grain. And that means they take out 2 of the parts. They take out the bran and the germ, and you're left with this fluffy endosperm that has all the natural sugars and the carbohydrates and energy like we talked about. Not bad, but best when put with all 3. We need that fiber and those vitamins and minerals. My first bread that I found says 100% whole wheat on the label, on the cover. Let's see in the ingredient list if it really is whole wheat. There we go. First ingredient, whole wheat flour. That looks like a good one. The next one says cracked wheat with whole grain bread. Let's see if that one. There's the ingredient list. Enriched flour, unbleached. Nope. In the order of how much is in there. So the first ingredient has the most amount in that product. So whole wheat was second. So there was more enriched flour than there was whole wheat. The next one we're going to look at is this. It says the softer multigrain bread. Let's look at that ingredient list. Enriched flour is the first ingredient, so that means all 3 parts of that plant aren't there. Now I have some cereals that we're going to look at. So this first one, a favorite, let's look at this ingredient list. We see that rice is the first ingredient and sugar is the second. And looking at the sugars, it says 12 grams of added sugars. That's half the sugar needed for a full day for a woman. The next cereal we're going to look at, let's check out the ingredient list. It has rice and milled corn as the first 2 ingredients. And then it has 5 grams of added sugars. And that sugar content is great, even though there's no whole wheat. Let's check out this one. Rice is the first ingredient, whole grain wheat is the second. But there's 18 grams of added sugars. At least it had whole wheat, but it had a lot of sugars. Let's try one more. Whole grain wheat is that first ingredient, but then we have 12 grams of added sugars. It had whole wheat as the first ingredient, but it still had a lot of sugar. I would look for something that had whole wheat as the first ingredient and less sugar, right? And you can always sweeten those things by adding bananas or a fruit, right? Those would make your cereal sweeter.